All right, this video we're going to talk about piping, okay? There's a lot to piping, a lot of things that you can do with it, but this right here, we're going to just kind of begin the conversation about what piping is typically attached to, why we use it, and some of the tools and components. So let's get started with this. Now this right here is the kind of our training rack, and this is perfect because this is using this, this is called a super strut here, but unistrut is usually what I hear talked about. And essentially it's a steel with this profile here. It's kind of a U profile with a little lip. And it is absolutely great for one, strength, okay, and two, mounting options. So for mounting things up. So when we take a look at how we can attach anything talking about tubing and pipes to this, I'll show you very quickly how to do that. The hardware is really simple. There are different styles of hardware. This is probably one of the most common here. It's got a cool little spring on it, helps hold everything together. And then we have angle brackets, usually in bolts and thick washers. The reason for the thick washer is because there's such a disparity between the bolt size and that hole size. And how this works is, I'm going to set this inside of the channel here, and I can actually, I'm going to set this down so I can use both hands. And I'm going to rotate this inside of the channel, and now I have a place to fasten. It's pretty awesome. So you can take your bolt and your bracket and stick it in here. You may often find that it's easier to start the bolt onto the nut, and then go ahead and insert it into the area you want to bolt it to, and then fasten this together. All right, so that's a bracket right there. There's a different bracket over here holding this piece of unistrut or superstrut in the other direction. So again, as we start to put some things up here and try to build our little piping systems, we're going to be using this a lot. And there's some things like pipe hangers. So in essence, when we go to install a pipe over here and we want it to stand up straight, and we don't want it to fall, and we don't want it to be subject to its own strength, we'll use pipe hangers to connect to all of the superstrut and unistrut so that we can make that happen. Now, that's all great with this. That should be pretty easy at this point for you guys to bolt these things together. Now what I want to do is just talk about some of the tools. Now, some of the tools here, you already know what this is. I made a joke, fits-all wrench. It's an adjustable wrench. You're going to use those for things like that. Also, socket wrenches are really popular and easy to use with this, makes things faster. Now, new tools, pipe wrench, all right? May not be new to some of you, but essentially if we have a pipe, which I'm holding in my hand, a galvanized steel pipe, I can open it up to the diameter. Sometimes these are graduated in here so you can get an idea. And then I'm going to get it close, and then I can grab onto this and actually turn. Now, look, I don't really have a need to turn this without a thread, which actually brings us to another one of the tools that we have here. This here is a pipe threader. You notice it has teeth inside that look like a thread. This is actually used, there's a ratcheting mechanism, which is really great. This is used in conjunction with what you can see in the background there. It's a pipe holder, and what you can do is put this on the end of a pipe. It has to be the appropriate corresponding diameter to the pipe size, and you can crank this around as it's ratcheting, and you can create the threads on the end of a pipe so that you can thread it together with some kind of a fitting. All right, so that's a pipe threader, and then of course after you're done with threading the pipe, you'll likely find some kind of a reamer tool. Usually these pipe cutters will have something on the back like this to where you can burr the inside. Just another one of the tools right there. And then speaking of pipe cutting, not all pipe can be cut with this style of cutter here, but generally even steel pipe can be cut as long as you have one that's big enough and strong enough. This one here, perfect for copper pipe and copper tubing. And we'll get into the differences between tubing and pipe in a little bit. Another cool little kit here is we have a pipe flaring tool, and essentially this will go around and hold on to a pipe, a piece of tubing as you're forcing in this conical tip here, and what it will do is just flare out the end of that. Pipe tubing bending, here is a bender for tubing, so tubing would go inside of this particular unit here. This one is a fixed size, this is too large for it, but it would go in here and actually bend. Now, if we don't have this available for us to use, then we have something like this, which is really neat. It looks like a spring off of a spring door, but you can shove your tube inside of here, and then what you can do is just bend it around. And what it does is it protects these sidewalls from kinking. So you don't actually flatten it out when you bend it, rather it will bend and stay at a shape. A few other little tools here. This is perfect for, it's a sharper blade here. It's good for cutting the rubber hose. Okay, so hose material like this, highly flexible. You can stick this in here and cut that right off. And a few other things here, strap wrench, and essentially this works semi-similar to the pipe wrench, except for the pipe wrench actually bites into the steel. This one here kind of wraps around, and then this provides a cam so that you can actually grab round items and spin them around. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is a level. Now, level is very important, especially when it comes to some plumbing, especially if it comes to something that's draining. And not all levels are created equal, okay? This one right here, if you notice that it has two seemingly horizontal levels in here, little bubbles, that's actually at a slightly different rate, and this is so that you can kind of get the idea of how much fall over a certain amount of feet. So again, all those things are not created equal. Now, one of the other nice tools that we have here, there's gauges. You can also use your standard measuring tools for stuff like this. However, this is a good little gauge for, hey, going up into a pile of hose or whatever and sticking this in, and whoop, it slipped right over the 3/8, so that's a 3/8 ID, and I can come over here and see what it looks like. Oh, and it's 5/8 OD. So very cool things to have with you when you're dealing with a lot of different pipe sizes and things of that nature. So, otherwise, we have some other parts over here. I'm just going to take you a walk around. Very quickly, you're going to see that there are a handful of different fittings for this particular rack, so you can put whatever you need on here. And then over in this area, you're going to find many of the other types of fittings. We have some reducers, we have some T's, we have unions. We'll talk a little bit more about that in later videos. Other materials, hard pipe up here on the wall, along with some more super or unistrut, along with our copper tubing, okay, PVC piping, and hose material over here.